rather, we're really grateful to have you join us, and I'll let you have the floor. Welcome.
Okay. Hopefully I'm all appropriately mic'd up now. And as Lenny said, I'm just going to wing this. It's the first time I've seen these slides, so we'll see how this goes. All right. So good morning, everyone. Let's start with a little bit of an introduction of our clean transportation work at NYSERDA. For those who aren't familiar, NYSERDA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. So we have a pretty large portfolio in transportation specifically, and we are the only fully integrated team at NYSERDA that does everything from early stage R&D, policy research, demonstrations, incentive programs. So we have typically in our other teams, there's kind of the R&D or innovation side, and then the market development side. And it's really exciting that we are integrated across all of those, so we're able to interact with the market in many different ways. Our portfolio has 3 verticals. Everyone's very familiar with our electric vehicle. That's the largest portion of what we do. We also work in public transportation and electrified rail. And then where I primarily work is on mobility management. So I had the pleasure of speaking at one of these, I think 3 years ago at this point. And at that point, I spoke a lot about it, and many people in the audience said, wow, we had no idea that NYSERDA does this. So I'm here again to enlighten you that we have a very broad portfolio. So we are currently manage about $200 million in investments across that spectrum. And I know what we're talking about here today and under the Climate Act is this focus on equity, but it's something that's been central to our work for as long as I've been at NYSERDA and really predates all of the CLCPA work. So I'm really proud of the work that we've been doing. So some of the key issues, Sophia started to get into some of these stats, so I'll just expand on that a little bit. We know that in New York State, transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, and medium and heavy duty vehicles, we've heard a lot about that as well, and these disproportionately impact disadvantaged communities. And access to clean, affordable transportation options is often limited or lacking in these communities. Second to housing costs, transportation is the second largest portion of a household's costs. Those households in the bottom fifth spend almost 30% of their after-tax income on transit-related expenses, compared to the top fifth is only 9.5%. And commute time is the single largest factor in determining a household's odds of escaping poverty. This link between job access, affordability, transportation is so crucial. So when we were starting, we saw the Slido and words were popping up. I saw affordability, I saw equity, and that is a central component of our work at NYSERDA. But one size does not fit all. So there's this really wide range of local conditions and community needs. So varying degrees of transit access, bike and ped infrastructure, public charging stations, and the census actually the US Census put out a study that we're a nation of small towns. About 3/4 of incorporated places have a population of under 5,000. So we're not all like New York City, and even New York City isn't all like New York City. Outer boroughs, these pockets of communities, really at the neighborhood level, there are these drastic differences in the access to these clean modes. And coupling that with this insufficient funding to actually deploy these to meet the local needs. So at NYSERDA, we've committed $85 million in prize awards to try to tackle or start to tackle this issue, to electrify transportation, enhance mobility, reduce emissions through large-scale innovation projects that came out of the Make-Ready order that was referenced in Lenny's presentation. But we really need further resources to continue to do community needs assessments, expand these solutions to more locations across the state. And this is something that we've seen emphasized in the recommendations from the transportation panel for the Climate Action Council. So hopefully more to come on this soon. I think we're all familiar with the benefits of action. So we were asked kind of what would be the benefits of addressing this or the consequences of not. So consequences really are kind of the flip side of all of these. There'd be increased energy consumption. We continue to see poor air quality, higher asthma rates. So really acting on this, we're tackling the equity issue, we're tackling affordability, increasing productivity, reducing commute times, increasing safety by having more dedicated infrastructure, and a more rapid scaling by proving these out through large-scale demonstrations. So my challenge statement today is, regarding mobility and transportation, to achieve New York's 2050 carbon and equity goals, a critical obstacle to overcome is the lack of a convening structure to identify and coordinate sustainable funding options for clean transportation deployments that address local conditions and meet the community's needs. People, when they hear that I work at NYSERDA, they say, hey, you guys have money. It's coming next. So I'm turning back on all of you to say, yeah, we do mobilize funds in these areas, but we're not the only ones. So what are you all bringing to the table, and what can we do collectively to achieve these carbon and equity goals? Thank you.